This is great.
Sports Fix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix@AOL.com. That's thesportsfix@AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Fantasy Jocks. Visit fantasyjocks.com, your fantasy sports superstore. Championship belts, rings, trophies, and more.
This is Greg Pruitt, formerly of the Cleveland Browns, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
And away we go, live, running, here we go. Welcome in, guys. I'll fill you guys in here in a minute. We were not in the studio yesterday, and the aftermath of that is lingering today. I'm going to do the best I can. I'll tell you guys about it in just a minute, but we're going to get rolling. We've got a lot to do. The phones are already ringing. No surprise to me at all, as here we sit on the aftermath of the NFL draft kicking off and the Browns making some moves, and I'm a happy camper today. I'm a happy camper today, as those of you that listen to the Sports Fix know, my dreams came true. And I'm not saying that facetiously. It's exactly what I asked the Browns to do in the first round of the draft. They did it. They did it yesterday, and that's a good thing, you guys. That is a very good thing, and we're going to talk about that here as we go. I think, obviously, some of you guys want to, as I see phones ringing here early on. We're going to do that. We've got Jeff Gorman from Browns101.com here, breaking down the first round of the draft, looking ahead to the rest of the weekend. Mike Brandenberry's in the house. We're going to talk Indians and Cavs hoops, as we now know. It's going to be the Cavs and the Bulls. Whoa, did the Bulls did they say we're done playing around last night or what? Oh my goodness, they doubled them up. So was it 66 points they gave up? That game was unreal, man. Actually, I was with a buddy of mine doing some recording for a wrestling thing, and we watched the basketball games earlier as they were live, and then as we were in between doing some editing, here comes the replay of that game. When you watch it back a second time, knowing what the final score was, it was even worse watching it a second time. It was like watching that fight that you just can't turn away from, because it's just getting uglier and uglier, because we knew where the final result was going to go. And boy, man, did Chicago finish that one off. And now we got the Cavs and the Bulls coming up. Mike's going to be here. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk Indians. Is there help on the horizon for the Cleveland Indians? We're going to see what Mike Brandenberry says about that. We got Mayweather and Pac-Man this weekend. It's the flip over of another month here. We're going into the month of May. We're into the month of May now. All of that. Let's get ready to roll, you guys. This is The Sports Fix, and I'm your host, the Big Daddy on the microphone, J-Rocc, Jerry Myers, with you here each and every weekday at noon, live across the Sports Fix radio network. Whether you're listening live on TuneIn, TuneIn's radio app worldwide, on Spreaker, Mixler, their respective digital and mobile applications. Perhaps you're enjoying the show as you do each and every day live right on our home base, thesportsfix.net. Thank you guys all who join us live each and every weekday. And, of course, thanks as well to the thousands of you guys every day who tune in on demand, on digital delay, 24/7, on places such as iHeartRadio, the world's largest internet radio provider, on iTunes, on Stitcher Radio, and SoundCloud, CarPlay, and all of the other places that you guys download, feed, subscribe the show, however you do it, however you get your fix. Thank you guys so much for being here with us each and every day doing the thing, and get your fix. Be a part of the show. You guys are as much the sports fix as I am, and then some. So use the phones, use the social media. Hit me up today. Where you at with the Cavs and the Bulls, with the Browns draft, all of that. 216-539-7535 is the number to call. 216-539-7535. Can't get through. Can't use the phones. Maybe you're listening to the show on your phone. Facebook, Twitter, Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us. Tell me your thoughts on things at the Sports Fix CLE. Facebook.com/thesportsfix, or just search in your search box on your Facebook app for the Sports Fix. Tweet with us at the Sports Fix CLE. Make sure you like and follow while you're over there. Of course, we've got nearly 26,000 social media followers. Join them. We have great conversations. There's all kinds of good stuff. Every once in a while, we're doing contests. Who knows what's going to happen? Great content fed through from all of our friends that did the Tribe win, and Everybody Hates Cleveland, and all the different places. Browns and Indians 101, and so many different places. It's a great place to get a wide variety of stuff. So make sure you follow us and like us there. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at the Sports Fix CLE. Real quick, going to let you guys know right off the bat why we weren't here yesterday and what is carrying over here today. And I'm doing the best I can not to let it affect us. And part of that is probably going to affect us today. I'm probably going to have a little bit more of a good time today than I should. Yesterday, I had mentioned during the week that I had been stalling off going to see a dentist. I had had some issues, and they had really begun to amplify, especially when I'm here talking 3 hours a day. Guys, the last few weeks of the show have been downright painful because as that air's going in and out past it, and I had an issue with the wisdom tooth that I didn't even know had grown in. Doctors are always amazed, and I'm not saying this to brag or anything. It's just that I have a very high tolerance for pain. I've done the wrestling thing for 16 years, and no matter what you think about pro wrestling, there's a high tolerance for pain that gets built up after a while of doing that. And, I'm one of those guys. And again, this was one where it was like, really? This hasn't bothered you until now? And I'm like, well, not really, but it's bothering me now. So anyways, had some work done, had some extraction work done, all of that. I feel much better. World's better. Something I should have done probably a year ago. But again, sometimes you're too macho for your own good. But it was either do today's show in a decent amount of pain or take some things to alleviate the pain. So I'm doing all right, but my mouth is continuously dry here. So if I have to keep pausing on you guys, or if my voice breaks up, I apologize in advance. But there was no way I was not going to be here today. I said, they're like, you may just want to take tomorrow off since you talk. And I'm like, that's not possible. You do realize that the draft is going on tonight, and the Indians and the Cavs and all. I can't take off. So here we are, man. I'm taking one for the team. I'm putting some dirt on it for you, baby, and we're gonna do the thing here. And let's start right off the bat. Browns. Let's go there with the and guys, I'm gonna get to your phones. I see I've got calls in the queue here. The Browns yesterday, to me, and not just the Browns, I thought the first round in general played out so much like I thought it was going to do. And I mean, look, there's times that I'm as wrong as anybody else about stuff. That's the fun of what we do. The uncertainty of how things actually turn out compared to how you think they are. But if you think back, and those of you that listen every day, you guys know the first round of this draft played out a lot like I thought. I really had the feeling coming in that the NFL in general was, I don't want to say leaning more conservatively in the way they draft, but yeah, that's kind of what I mean. As far as a whole lot of general managers are kind of in that camp that early in the draft now, they're going to save their gambling. They're going to save their risk-taking now for the second round, for the third round. I mean, you'll get the occasional guy that'll make a big move, and you'll get the Browns who will do their splashes. And a lot of times it's because they're trying to make up for mistakes in the past, which is the worst thing to do. It's like if you didn't draft a wide receiver last year, you don't force the wrong one this year, but so many years the Browns do. Bad football teams do that in general when it comes to trying to fix the mistakes of the past draft. But I had a feeling, and I said this when Dan Wismar and I were talking the other day, that in general, guys would rather make the safe pick, the correct picks early, because those are the ones that get you fired. And then you make your risks a little bit in different places, in guys that you may pick up, or character guys that you may go after later, or whatever. But it's so much of a red flag now to take those guys early that the smart teams do. And we always talk about drafting like the Steelers, or like the Patriots, or like the Ravens, or whatever. But it's not just the good pick, it's the smart football pick, it's the safe pick, but it's safe because it's the smart pick. And people act like the word safe is just a bad thing. You know, there were some, not many. Most Browns fans were pretty satisfied, and you should be. You should be satisfied with what the Browns did last night, because all they did, as Ray Farmer said, was go to bed a better football team than they started the day. And that's what you need when you're digging out of the hole of what you've done. You know, I was a little shocked at some people that wanted more splash, but when you look at how the draft has fallen so far, and you see where things most likely are going to go, I'm digging where they went. And we'll get into the individual players here in just a minute. But even when it comes to the outside of the Browns, I said it with John McMullen a week and a half ago. I said, why does everybody think Tennessee's not just going to take Marcus Mariota? Like, everybody goes, Tennessee needs a quarterback, but they're not going to take Mariota. And I'm like, well, if every other team is supposedly interested in jockeying up and willing to do this and that to go up and get this pick, they want a quarterback. They just don't want that quarterback. And that didn't really make any sense to me, to be totally honest. That didn't really make any sense to me. And I said, I think Tennessee's just going to take him. And sure enough, they did. And there you go. But anyways, the draft, as you see, a lot of people just approaching it again, making that big splash. Yes, some teams want to go do it, but now, as you see, look what Ray Farmer did yesterday. First off, getting Danny Shelton, and I'll focus in on the Browns here, and Jeff Gorman's going to join us. Matter of fact, I'll set the stage, I'll take a call or two, and then we'll hit the break and get Jeff in here, and we'll just keep picking up right on this. But right off the bat at number 12, you watch the way the board falls to you, and I think we all talked, we speculated quite a bit that you were going to probably need to take Danny Shelton. If he was even going to be there for you at number 12, he was, and the Browns did. And that was, to me, we can talk about wide receivers and needing the speed and impact, and I understand that that's such a flashy thing. The Browns did upgrade their receiver position. Now, how significantly can be argued. It may not be very much. It may be more than some people think. But they did address it to a degree in free agency significantly. In their opinion, they addressed it significantly. And look at the grouping of wide receivers that are left. The Browns are going to have their choice of a handful of guys here coming up at 43, several of which I would be happy with, you know? So I understand a lot of people, because you know how it goes. Once names get in the news, people get their heart set on a guy. Perryman was the latest guy like that. Boom, by the way, told you guys, if he got past the Browns there at 19, I saw him going to Baltimore, and he sure did. But you know, you look at what they did and what the Browns did. The biggest problem on this Browns team, you can score all you want, even if you figure out how to score, even if your quarterbacks are decent and you're getting in the end zone. The Browns can't stop anybody from running the ball. And when you can't stop teams from running the ball, and when you can't get pressure at the quarterback, it does not matter what you do. You're never gonna have success. And that was one of the most glaring needs for the Browns, was on the defensive line, and we know that. And they addressed it right off the bat with the big nose tackle right in the middle. You've got a good now batch of combinations here. You're going to help yourself short term with Phil Taylor. You've protected yourself against injury and or free agent loss of Phil Taylor. You've bolstered that line. You've now finally got some run stopping going on back in the middle. And as Ray Farmer said, in effect, he also helps your pass rush game, because he can focus and demand so much on the run stop that you can set loose other guys to go after the quarterback that previous till now had other obligations. It's really a luxury that the Browns are going to have. I equate it to the drafting of Haloti Ngata years ago, and this is, and knock on wood, he can only be as good as Ngata. That would be such a great thing for the Browns. But even if he doesn't get to that level, that's that kind of pick, and that's the pick that you cannot fault the Browns for making, because it's a position of need. We play in the AFC North. It's in the trenches. It's smash mouth Northeast, Midwest, winter weather football, all of that stuff, man. And it's built, good teams are built on the offensive and defensive lines. Those are not just cliches that people use. Build teams in the trenches, and that's what the Browns did at both sides. I was a bit surprised because I wanted it. I said offensive and defensive line in the first round. I was a bit surprised that they avoided the temptation of going elsewhere and went with the offensive line when it came back around at 19. But that's what they did when they took Cameron Irving. And there's a guy who can play all the positions on the offensive line now. He walks into the league a starter, very similar to Joel Bitonio that you got last year. And now you really can bolster what was the strength of the team until Alex Mack went out, and you protect yourself. In case next year Alex Mack says, I don't care, I'm not staying here, I don't care if the Browns win the Super Bowl, I want to go play somewhere else. Okay, you've now protected yourself there as well. You get extra depth on the line because Greco's a good lineman, but he's a great reserve lineman. He's a good, starting level guy. But, man, Greco now gives you a veteran guy that could fill in and back you up at several positions there, as we saw, even in a pinch. I mean, you can then slide Irving over. There's a lot of things you can do, but he's plug and play, and it's really going to be able to allow you to move Schwartz inside. You could put him at right tackle, or maybe not. Maybe he slides in at the guard. There's several positions that he can instantly slide in, but that was the one that some people were critical of, not me. Go for it. And the reason I say that is because I think the Browns saw exactly what you look at when you look at the board. I know, again, some people had their hearts set on certain names like Perriman, but if you get yourself out of that and you look, there's a good grouping of wide receivers left. There's still a good potential here for what they can do at 43, and I think that's what allowed the Browns to make the move and the moves that they feel that they made. But I'm telling you, Ray Farmer said it, Browns came out a better football team on the other end of that draft, and now, we'll see where they go from here. And we can pick up more, of course, Jameis Winston going number 1, Mariota number 2. We're going to get into all of that with Jeff Gorman. I'm going to get in at least one phone call here before we go. Caller, you're up on the Sports Fix.
Big Daddy, how are you doing?
Hey, what's up? It's
Bob
my man,
from
Big
Bristol.
Bob. That's right, from Bristol, Connecticut. How you doing, Bob?
Oh, buddy, fabulous. What a draft. Who the hell hit all these guys on the head to smarten them up at draft time in 2015? What concrete level drafts. What a foundation to solidify our Cleveland Brown team. Not only a wonderful person in Danny Shelton, but a legitimate, possibly Vince Wilfork person for 10, 12 years to plug up the middle for us. And Irving, like you said, plays all over that offensive line, solidifies. And that's what we have to do, concrete up. I would have loved to have gotten Brandon Sheriff from Ohio, but
look at how early he went. Look at how early he went in the draft. I think that surprised a lot of people.
All-American, Danny Shelton. Yeah. Fabulous. That's what we need. And they surely made up for quite a long time of miserable drafts this year.
I mean, this is, I'll tell you what. I mean, again, for anybody that says boring, I say, let me tell you something. If they'd have drafted
boring, you got to be kidding me. Boring.
Yeah, exactly. If they had drafted like this since 1999,
this is foundation work.
Right, and that's where I'm at. You have to do that. This is the kind of stuff that the Baltimores, the New Englands, the Pittsburghs, the strong teams, this is what they do. They don't draft to win the press conference. Last year, the Browns drafted to win the press conference. Last year, the Browns drafted to sell tickets, and it bit them in the rear end so badly. This year, they locked Jimmy Haslam in a closet. Ray Farmer said, I'm telling you, you're not going to sell one jersey tomorrow, but we're going to be a better football team. And that's what they did, and I'm with it. And I think that now it'll be interesting to see what they do with, of course, the 2 picks that they've got today, because I think there's a group of wide receivers that's out there. There's a lot of things. I think today they get either a wide receiver, tight end type player, and I think they pick up a pass rusher today is what I think they do with these 2 picks. But it'll be interesting to see. But nobody, to me, can fault what they did, and it's a good building block. It's not going to win you the Super Bowl, but 5 years from now, you look back and go, boy, that was a heck of a first round, because instead of taking risks and going, if this works out, we're going to do great, but if it doesn't, forget that. Now you just got 2 guys that are going to be good football players for the next 10 years.
This was your foundation work.
Yep.
This was your foundation work. Ray Farmer, you solidified that GM position. Darn it, I wanted to slide in there, but fabulous draft. And I'll tell you, these next 2 picks, the 43rd and 77th overall, we have to get a diamond in the rough from these 2 picks. We have to hopefully get a starter or 2 people that are going to push starters. You know what I'm saying?
Most definitely.
And smart people that want to be in a Cleveland Brown uniform. Man, I've waited too long, and I know a lot of Brown fans out there, we waited so long, and I think we're on the track, definitely on the track. And this day 2 can really solidify this draft of 2015 for the Browns.
For sure. I'm looking forward to it. Bob, my man, anything else before we go? I got to keep it moving.
Okay, I am so sorry to see Love go down. I'll tell you, when I saw that, it almost looked like that guy deliberately did that. But
he did. I don't want to say he deliberately.
I don't want to say anything, but I
don't want to say he
terrible.
deliberately hurt him, but he deliberately did what he did. Maybe he didn't think it was going to be as serious as it was, but if he's going to say he didn't yank on the arm, he's lying to your face.
Maybe he thought he was. Maybe he thought he had Big Daddy Man in the ring. That's what I thought.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe he was just trying to shake his hand. I don't know. But anyways,
being
Cavs
a Knicks fan, I'm rooting for the Cavs, man. I would love to see a championship go to the Cavs, but it's going to be a little harder, but you guys still can do it. You still can do it. And please, people, go to the Young Indians. It's May 1st now. Things are going to turn around, man. Things are going to turn around.
We're going to talk to Mike about that here in a little bit. All right, my friend. You have a good one, Big Bob.
Cats. Love you, cats.
You got it. You too, my man. Big Bob, always great listening to us up in Connecticut, and he is hopeful for those young Indians. Let's talk to Mike Brandenberry here in a little bit, and we'll see what he thinks. But right now, let's take a break and talk to Jeff Gorman and keep it right where we started. We're breaking down the first round of the NFL draft, the rest of hour 1 here. Jeff Gorman from Browns101.com is going to join me. We'll talk about Shelton and Cameron Irving, and we'll talk about Winston, and we'll work our way on down through the round, and then look ahead as the rest of the NFL is on the clock. And this is kind of the cool thing of doing the first round is now you take 32 players off the board and we start all over again with number 1. We'll talk about it with Jeff Gorman from Browns101.com coming up next. Mike Brandenberry coming up in hour 2. We're talking Tribe and Cavs and so much more here on the Sports Fix. Don't go away. Jeff Gorman coming up next.
Up on your way, hit the open road. There is magic at your fingers. For the spirit never lingers. Undermining contact in your head.
Get your fix.
Cause it's Friday, you ain't got no job, and you ain't got shit to do.
It's the Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
The wait is finally over, guys. Baseball season is here at last, and the excitement continues all season long. Here we go again at DraftKings.com, the official daily fantasy partner of Major League Baseball. Daily fantasy means no season-long commitments, just instant cash, instant gratification. Why wait until the end of the season to claim victory when you can win huge cash every day? At DraftKings, it's like a brand new season every time you play. Just select 2 pitchers and 8 position players, stay under your salary cap, and you could be on your way to an enormous payday. Last year, Peter from Colorado won $1 million at DraftKings in one day just playing fantasy baseball. Hundreds of thousands of fantasy sports fans, just like you and I, have already cashed in at DraftKings.
Now it's your turn, baby. Hurry to DraftKings.com now and enter promo code SPREAKER to play for free. You could win part of the $300 million. Yes, I said $300 million in prizes being awarded this baseball season. Use promo code SPREAKER for free entry now at DraftKings.com. DraftKings.com. That's DraftKings.com.
The Sports Fix is on iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeart app today. Subscribe to the show and get your fix. Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize. I mean, a really real prize. Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs. There's literally only one place to go. FantasyJocks.com.
Here we go, bring it on in. It's time now. It's all city. We got to do it for them, dog. We got to do it for Cleveland. They're waiting on us. Define what we're about. Let's get it going.
Every single night, every single practice, every single game, we got to give it all we got because they're going to ride with us. Everything that we do on this floor, because of this city, we owe them. We're going to grind for this city. They're going to support us, man, but we got to give it all back to them. We get it done. The toughness that we have on the court is going to come from this city. Everybody, the whole city of Cleveland. That's what it's all about. It's time to bring them something special. Let's go. Bring it on in, everybody. Let's go. Hard work on 3. Together on 6. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6. It's all us. Cleveland on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Hey everybody, this is Jerry the King Lawler from WWE, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix as we roll on here. Hour 1. Jeff Gorman from Browns101.com getting ready to join me. I'm J-Rocc here. We're talking some Browns and some NFL draft. Of course, a whole lot more is still to come. Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinThatSite.com going to join us in hour 2. We're going to talk some Indians and Cavs and a whole lot more. But right now, we're talking Browns, we're talking football, and we want to talk to you on Facebook and Twitter because the phones are not open. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. Your thoughts on the Browns' first round of the draft, what you want to see them do here as they now progress through the next portion of this thing, and more. Hit us up, Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. Or as I say all the time, you can leave your take on the hotline, and we'll play it at the next opportunity, of course. 216-539-7535 is the number to call. Right now, you can't go to the phones because that's where Jeff Gorman's hanging out. My man from Browns101.com with us every Friday talking Browns. Today, quite the day to do just that because we are now on the backside of round 1 here, and let's get Jeff in. Jeff, how you doing this Friday afternoon? First off, my friend.
I'm doing fantastic, J-Rocc. Got a beautiful day. It's a brand new month, and we got lots of good stuff to talk about.
Absolutely, and it really is, by the way. I meant to say that at the beginning of the show, but I'm in my, dentist-induced coma here, so I just moved right on to talking football. But, yeah, it is a beautiful weekend coming up. I don't know about where you guys are listening specifically, but if you're anywhere around Cleveland, you got a heck of a weekend coming up. Every day from now through Monday is just beautiful here. Probably the best 4-day stretch we've had all year. And hey, you know what? Maybe that sun is shining outside for a reason, man. I don't know, but it should be shining a little brighter on Berea, because while they may not have drafted anybody that's going to sell all those new jerseys that they got, they just made themselves a better football team yesterday.
Right, and it was just so nice to see just the overall philosophy behind what the Browns did, not acting out of desperation, not acting out of panic, acting like a team that accomplished something last year, which they kind of did, although, losing the last 5 games was not good. But, they acted more like a team that won 7 games than like a team that was desperate because they lost their last 5 games. They seemed very confident in who they had, what they'd accomplished. I think, we're going to build this the right way, and we're going to strengthen our team where it counts, and that's going to have a ripple effect that will hopefully help things out, even if it wasn't really splashy.
Absolutely. So, hey, why don't you start there, man? I've already kind of set the stage here a little bit, told my thoughts on, at least let's start with the Browns before we dive in and look around the rest of the NFL. Where were you at as 12 comes around? This was one of those, I don't know about anybody listening, or you, Jeff. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but not mocking the Browns. I mean, even though it's right there if you want it, I don't even need to take the easy stuff. How many times have you sat there, seriously, since 1999, or hell, even some of the years before that, but how many times have you sat there and said, I just think the best player for the Browns to take is blank, and that's the name that comes across the screen, because it is so rare that those two thought processes are aligned. Most people are usually going, even if you talk yourself into what they did, most people are going, I didn't see that one, or boy, I'm scratching my head a little bit, or whatever, in a good way, bad way, whatever. But man, how many people were just sitting there going, boom, Danny Shelton, here we go, and the card comes in, and you go, all right, great draft pick.
I know, it was very strange. It was just like a fastball right down the middle of the plate. It was almost unexpected how expected it really was. Like, they really did pick this guy, the top guy with our biggest need, and, everything's all good as far as his character and everything. And this is the kind of guy who's going to shore up our run defense, also help the pass defense too, I think. And wow, we're all in agreement here. The Browns didn't say, oh, well, we think this other guy is better, or there's some other area of our team that we want to shore up that nobody else was thinking, and we have outsmarted everybody in the room. No, they didn't do that. It was they took the person that everybody thought he was going to pick, and I don't see anybody complaining about it, and that's a good sign.
No, absolutely, my man. You and I are in absolute agreement there. And, when 12 came around, I know there was a lot of people that, especially in that group, that was looking for the wide receiver, that was looking for the skill position player. Devontae Parker's right there for the taking. And I would have loved to have seen. I mean, hey, if I could have thought that I was getting Danny Shelton at 19, I would have definitely, made the argument for taking that chance. But, man, that's a chance you couldn't take. That, to me, that's a chance you couldn't take with some of the guys that, some of the teams that you got there. I mean, you look, whether you're talking San Francisco, Kansas City, there was a couple of teams there looking defensive side of the ball that may have. I don't think he gets to 19. So, but Parker's there, and I credit the Browns for saying, hey, this is our biggest need. And then some people will argue about that. And I said that, I don't know if you caught the opening segment. Some people argue that the wide receiver is the biggest need. Maybe that plays out to be true. But you have to look at what the Browns believe as they look at the board. The Browns believe we addressed that position in free agency. Now, some people like Bo and Hartline. Some people say, hey, they weren't good enough. But the Browns feel that they upgraded in at least some way the position in free agency. So to me, that lessens their need to go there at 12, especially too, as I was saying, when you look at the way the first round fell out. And I think this was part of their process too. They looked at the wide receivers that were left that are in the certain grouping, and then they looked at the teams left in between 19 and 43, and I think they're taking a gamble here that there will be plenty of quality wide receivers left, and I believe that to be true. I think they're set to take a skill player here at 43, but you can't argue with the thought process. Your need is in the defensive line. Doesn't matter if you score 49 points if the other team runs for 300. I mean, Taliaferro, who else ran all over the Browns this year? Guys that aren't even on rosters anymore ran all over the Browns this year. And it doesn't matter how many points you score. It doesn't even matter how good your offensive line is or your running game is, or even if Johnny Manziel comes back from the heavens and has this unbelievable comeback. And none of it matters if you can't stop the other team from running the ball and you can't get to the quarterback. And Shelton instantly helps in really both of those ways.
Right, because you talk about different areas of need. And, the Browns did, they did bring in Hotline, they did bring in Bo to help the wide receivers. And I think that the Browns feel like they addressed wide receiver in the offseason more than they did the defensive line. I mean, think about it. What happened to the defensive line? Well, we lost a Ty Ruben. Then we also brought in Starks. That's true. But pretty much, they didn't have a net gain there. They didn't have something that says, well, wow, with these free agents that we brought in, now, I think our run defense is going to be okay. No, I think if anything, we were able to kind of stand pat or maybe get back to the level we were on and possibly not get any even worse. So it was definitely something that hadn't been adequately addressed in a free agency, and something that really did need to be chosen. And, there just seems to be an overall, I wouldn't say a devaluation of the wide receiver position, but more of a feeling that there are guys out there, you could get guys in the 4th round, in the 5th round, and even sometimes even off of undrafted free agency, guys who can be effective for you. They're not going to be all pro, but you can find some decent wide receivers who can help you really, all over the place. And you can't necessarily say that for, defensive line now. If you find someone who can really, stop up the middle of your line, and it really helps everybody because, and even Mike Pettin was talking about this, he said, Sheldon had 9 sacks, and people talk about how he's a run stuffer, but he can also collapse the pocket. And if you have a situation where he can, on 3rd down, he can stay there in the middle and basically stop any possible attempt at a run while you get everybody else out there just going after the quarterback.
Exactly. He can take on double teams there. He can do quite a bit. Really, there's a lot that plays in there. As even they said, he had limited ability to even get to the quarterback, and he had like 9 sacks. But as you said, more in a function of now you can take bigger chances with other guys because you can go, hey, if they try to run that draw, if they try to take advantage of our aggressiveness, hey, we got the big man to make sure that doesn't happen, And then when you got to go goal line, as Mike Pettin said, you can see the 2 white jerseys in the middle there. You get, knock on wood, Phil Taylor, because the one part of the equation too is not only can he walk in a year, but he's still not sure he's going to come back. Now, if he does, man, you can. That's hey, you got to get 1 yard. I'm going to see if you can get it past these guys, then I guess you just deserve to get that 1 yard. But that's going to free up so many other things. And we'll talk more here in a minute about not taking a wide receiver there because I want to get your thoughts on the grouping of guys that are still left. But, then you come up a few picks later at 19, and this is the one I think that more people had a bit of a reaction to, not me. This was one of the offensive linemen that the Browns were highest on in the entire draft. He's a guy like Joel Bitonio who comes in with the ability to plug and play in the NFL at several different positions and versatility on the offensive line. We just experienced an injury last year that really changed the course of the entire Browns season, and had they had a guy with the ability to slide, and they did the best they could, but go back hindsight. If you've got Cameron Irving on your team, you're able to slide a bona fide guy over to center and not miss a beat. And then you put a guy, you know what I mean? And so there's so many options there. And I thought, boy, this is great. Plus, nobody knows. Hey, maybe the Browns go on a big playoff run and Alex Mack says, hey, I want to play in Cleveland forever. But he has the ability to walk away next year, and the Browns cannot franchise him. They cannot force him to stay at all. That was part of the deal that he signed. So now the Browns are also covered in the event that they lose people next year on both sides of the line.
Right, and I think that's something that's very, very important because, people might look at them and say, we got the center in the 1st round, we got Alex Mack. You didn't really need a center. But the thing you got to realize about Irving is this guy was a left tackle, and that was his position, and due to an injury, he had to jump over to center. He had never snapped the ball before, and they said he was out there playing like an All-American. And he was just really one of the top centers, and he just jumped right into it. So that was really impressive, and they're also very happy with his footwork, so they know that he can play guard if they have to. So, Irving it is strange because when you think about it, when they got to 19, you're thinking, would they have picked Lael Collins from LSU if this whole controversy with him hadn't come up? And the answer is possibly yes. So I guess we'll never know because Collins is still out there. he'll be out there today. Somebody could possibly take him. But that really, that situation really played into Irving's favor. And now, I think it actually played into the Browns' favor, too. As good as it is to have, a tackle, it's good to have a big tackle, but the fact that that Irving can play center and he can play it well, that really gives us some insurance if Mac leaves or if, unfortunately, he were to get injured again. And it's just nice to have somebody that you can put wherever you need it, since you've got your strength with Thomas and with Batonio on that line. And I think that's really going to help the Browns. I think that ended up being a very underrated and a very good pick.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And I'll tell you, you mentioned Collins and I mentioned Humphreys in the lead up to the draft. But, the Browns valued Irving higher than both of them because of the combination of the versatility, because that makes a difference. Even if a guy, not to take away from being a Pro Bowl guy at one position, but that versatility is kind of, unless you get the case where a guy is good at a lot of things and not great at anything, but the fact that he can also be great at one of those things but be versatile, I think that being snake bit last year, you start to carry snake venom poison after you've been snake bit, and it almost feels like a little bit of that. Like they said, you know what? Plus, when you add the versatility to the footwork, that's one thing Ray Farmer kept talking about, said of all the offensive linemen, Irving had the best footwork of any of them, and that they just really felt good about that. And, another thing, and this isn't the way anybody should look at it, but we've been snake bitten here in Cleveland by all the regime changes over the years, and the more guys you have that are described in the scouting report as able to play in any scheme, at any position, in any different way, that should feel good too, because that means those guys can survive the occasional things that happen here. Every once in a while, things change here in Cleveland, and the more guys that you have that can adapt to that change, the better. And from all accounts, that's exactly what both of these guys are that the Browns picked up. And I keep going back to the final thing that Ray Farmer said yesterday, which is you can go to bed and we all go to sleep knowing that the Browns are better than they were when they started the day. And that's how you're supposed to end the first round of the NFL draft.
That's right, and I hope we get that same feeling at the end of today and at the end of tomorrow, too. I'm glad that we don't have a feeling of, oh, gee, what if this one guy doesn't work out? And I have to tell you, I was really worried that they were going to roll the dice and trade everything for Mariota, and it turns out that even if they had, the Titans would have said no, because the Eagles basically offered them the sun, the moon, and a couple of stars to be named later, and they still wouldn't give up that pick. So the Titans were obviously not going to give up Mariota at all, and I'm kind of glad that didn't. And, even Farmer said, we didn't even try. We didn't try to trade for Mariota. We didn't try to trade for Sam Bradford, and it's just nice to see that everybody, the fans and him and even Mike Pettin, all rolling the boat in the same direction, saying that, not saying that our quarterback situation is ideal, which it certainly isn't. It was just so nice to see the team not give up so much on a guy who may or may not work out, when now you can be pretty happy with two guys who you have every reason to think that they're going to be solid, long-term contributors, if not all pro.
Absolutely, and that is, again, the way you want to come out of that. And, let's go to Mariota. You brought him up, and I didn't mean to skip over Winston, but he was the number one pick, and of course, everybody expected that coming in. He took the picture with the crab legs afterwards, but, said all the right things. We'll see what happens with that. But go to number 2, because as you talk about the trade, and you saw Chip Kelly tried to get in there and wasn't able to do it, I think it was when you and I talked 2 weeks ago, but I remember specifically, it's the beauty of you guys being able to go back and listen to the old ones, but I remember saying, why does everybody just take it for granted that Tennessee is not drafting Marcus Mariota? I couldn't understand. It was national. It was everywhere. Nobody was assuming that they were all like, they're either going to trade out, and they kept saying the reason why is that the Titans want a quarterback, they just don't want this quarterback. And I said, man, I don't get it. If every other, and I knew that Mariota was a project as well, but if everybody else is willing to go up and get him, and I'm Tennessee, and I've got what I've got in the locker room, no offense to anybody, I would take that chance myself rather than unless the deal was so overwhelming. And so I thought it was a lot of smoke screen there by Tennessee, because it didn't add up to me that we've got two teams at the top that need quarterbacks, and they're not just going to take these guys 1 and 2, and that's exactly what they did. So while some people were like, hey, well, look at Tennessee, I was like, why not? Why? I had no surprise at all. The only thing I was surprised is that they didn't trade out, because I thought somebody was going to make some, obscene offer and go up in there. But apparently they wanted Mariota a little bit more than the so-called experts thought.
Yeah, and the one thing that we noticed this year that didn't happen last year, when Manziel and Bridgewater were out there, was you didn't hear a whole lot of people harping on these guys' weaknesses. I'm not saying they have no weaknesses, but, when you got guys going number 1, number 2 in the draft, they have very, very few weaknesses that people are going to point out and say, wow, this is a big reason why this guy succeeded in college but isn't going to succeed in the pros. And I think they really take a lot of stock in, does this guy's skill set translate to the pro game? That was obviously the case with Winston, as, the Bucs had no problem looking past his faults off the field, because they really felt like he was definitely NFL ready. And, physically and mentally, the Titans were obviously very convinced that Mariota is, not just a project quarterback or a system quarterback at Oregon, that, he's somebody who can play in the NFL under, a pro-style set. And that's why they were so sold on him that they, rejected the crazy offer from the Eagles, and they certainly would have rejected any offer the Browns would have made too. So that's the key there. Not a lot of weaknesses and a definite translation to the NFL game.
For sure. And by the way, look, because we kind of just skipped past Winston, can you not see Mike Evans being Kelvin Benjamin Part 2 for Winston in the NFL? That's going to be an interesting combination there. Plus, they've got a couple of other of good pieces there to get the ball to. I'm curious to see what he turns into, because there were so many ideas of what he could be, and the off the field stuff was just a piece of it. On the field, there's some questions too, so interesting to see. Looking through Jacksonville, this time they go opposite. Last year they took the quarterback that they believe is their quarterback of the future in Bortles, and this year they went, hey, I thought it was a strong pick too. I like Dante Fowler, man. Dante Fowler Jr., a good guy there for them to pick up and beef up the teeth of that Jacksonville defense.
Yeah, it was funny how the Florida teams drafted guys from Florida as well, with Winston, and then with Fowler, keeping the fans happy, and also, for the Jags providing a big need for them. And they made a smart move, I would agree.
Oh, absolutely. Cooper going to the Raiders, that was great. I mean, because you've already got Carr, and Carr's developing well, and they were one of the teams like the Browns down at the bottom as far as production from the wide receiver position. Great pickup for them. I'll tell you, Oakland, I think, may slowly build themselves a decent little football team here with some smart drafting over the last year or two.
Yeah, they're doing things right slowly but surely. It's funny because the joke with Al Davis was always that he always wanted the fastest,
speed,
wide receiver, especially with, Darius Hayward-Bay was obviously the big example of that. And so when you see Amari Cooper get picked by them, you're like, well, there go the Raiders again. But that was a smart one. That was a good move on their part. And I think and they're slowly, like you said, starting to put together a decent team. They still have a ways to go yet, of course.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think maybe the first surprise of the draft may have been Scherf going to Washington at 5, because so many people were looking maybe a trade out for Washington or some of the other players. Plus, Leonard Williams was still floating out there. There was a lot of thoughts somebody may go up, but that's definitely a great pick, and that's one of those ones too. To me, like taking a Joe Thomas when the Browns did or whatever, that it's kind of looked at like, oh man, your team needs so much. Why would you can't waste a top 5 pick there? But 10 years later, you're going, boy, that guy's still an all-pro lineman, and assuming of course that he plays out that way. But some people felt that was a bit of a reach to go that high for him.
Yeah, that's right. It's a big investment to make that kind of pick with a offensive tackle, but obviously that's a case where you think that he's going to be the man, so he's going to be like a cornerstone, and you know how that's such an important position where you're protecting the quarterback's blind side, and you don't often get a chance. Sometimes it might be once every 8 years or every 10 years to get really the right left tackle that's going to be your big rock, your cornerstone, like Joe Thomas is for the Browns.
Absolutely.
So it worked out pretty well for them. I think that's another situation where unless the guy's leg falls off, it's hard to argue with a pick like that.
For sure. Leonard Williams with Mariota, so many people had him going up earlier. I think that changed a lot of people's boards early. I don't know why, but Williams ends up dropping because of those couple of changes there. He gets to the Jets, which is a great pick for them at 6. I think he was probably the best all-around guy here at the top of the draft, so just an excellent pick for them. Kevin White to Chicago. When I saw that, I said, boy, they're going to put together an offense over there. You got, of course, Adam Gase over there with the type of offense that he puts together, and they've already got Alshon Jeffrey. They've got whatever you say about their quarterback. He's got an arm, Jay Cutler, and now you give Kevin White on the other side of Alshon Jeffrey. That's going to be a 1-2 combination there in Chicago.
Yeah, I think the Bears are really putting together pretty decent offense. There's a situation where Jay Cutler is really going to have to produce, or he doesn't really have any excuses. They're putting some really strong talent around him, not just with Jeffrey and with White, but just what Matt Forte can do, not just on the ground, but he is so dangerous catching the ball as well. So he's got a lot of weapons, and there's really no excuse for Cutler not to just really become one of the top quarterbacks. If he's not, then he's just not that good.
Yeah, that Chicago offense should really expand even more, as you brought up, with Forte, one of the top backs in the league. I mean, really, that's man, good time to be a Bears fan. Beasley beefs up that was a great value pick at number 8 there for Atlanta. I thought he may have won a few picks earlier than that. That's a guy I'd love to see in a Browns jersey. Obviously, you can't have everybody, but boy, he's going to be good defensively. Giants starting to beef up. They did like the smart teams do, beefing up that offensive line with Eric Flowers. Gurley goes to the Rams at 10. Of course, he was all emotional afterwards. He went through quite a bit to get back there. What do you think about that there? Of course, St. Louis looking for that workhorse back that they could have. Is Todd Gurley going to be that guy?
He might. That's the one pick that's a little bit iffy. I mean, they've got Zach Stacy, who's, he was a little upset at that pick. But, Gurley, I think he's going to turn out to be all right, but it's just kind of hard to take a running back in his, coming off an ACL tear. I mean, I'm not saying that he's a bad pick, but maybe it's that high. That's a little bit high for somebody who's, they're saying he's not going to be able to be full strength until the middle of the season. So that's a little bit difficult. I think he's probably going to turn out to be fine, but I just don't know if I would have gone that high, But if that's the guy that they really want and really believe in and think that he's going to be their next, Eric Dickerson for that franchise, then, all the better. But it's a little bit iffy just because of the injury, not because of his talent.
Oh, absolutely. It's top 10, of course, with the talent. But, I mean, plus a running back going that high. I mean, if he works out, absolutely. And he's got some things in his skill set. We'll have to see how he bounces back and if he gets back to full strength. We'll see what kind of pick that was for St. Louis. Of course, rolling through some good stuff there. New Orleans addressing the offensive line, which you've got to do, especially when you've got a quarterback that's aging a little bit. Parker was a great pickup to me for Miami there, just adding another weapon for Ryan Tannehill, because you just got Greg Jennings in free agency, and they've got Kenny Stills. So a couple of good ones. I liked Melvin Gordon going to San Diego. I think he's going to do great stuff with the Chargers there. I thought that was a good pick. It's going to give them a totally different back than what they've already got there in the running backs in San Diego. Looking through, I don't know. I thought San Francisco, that pick of Eric Armstead was a bit, I don't know. Marcus Peters was all right. Then you get to the Browns with Irving. Aguilar going to Philly. Great pick for them. I think he fits right into what they're doing. Cincinnati at the offensive line. Pittsburgh trying to get some speed and some pass rushing going in the linebackers. No surprise at all to see there. Brashard Perryman ending up in the division in Baltimore. I predicted last week that would be where he would end up, and that's exactly it. Shane Ray, the Denver Broncos, didn't let him fall out of the first round. A lot of people thought he may with the problems last week, but he goes to the Broncos there to beef up that defense. DJ Humphries goes to Arizona. Looking through, I mentioned Perriman there. Byron Jones, great pickup for the Cowboys, I think. That's a good one there. Hits a position of need. Dorsett, good wide receiver for the Colts as they beef up that offense there, put him with T.Y. Hilton. That could be some good stuff. And to me, one of the best picks of the entire first round of the draft, and they do it all the time. How in the world did Malcolm Brown fall to 32? Because if the Browns missed out on Shelton, to me, that was the next guy. Like, if you don't get Shelton, then you go get Malcolm Brown from Texas, and sure enough, he falls to Bill Belichick, the perfect pick. That's a Belichick pick right there, and that's going to refill the middle of that defensive line for the Patriots.
And it's always amazing how that works out for the Patriots. They'll win the Super Bowl, they'll get the last pick in the draft, and yet they'll come up with somebody really, really good. It's like the rich get richer. I mean, it's like they drafted someone. I'm not saying Malcolm Brown's a top 10 guy, but it's drafting someone and pretty high. And they always end up getting someone who works out very, very well. And I wouldn't be surprised if Brown was the same way.
I had Malcolm Brown top 15 of my guys, like of my just putting guys together and not in need order, just guys. I had him in my top 15. That's how highly I thought of him. So I think that's an excellent pick, and the fact that the Patriots made it should let you know that that's an excellent pick too, because they made it. And if they made it, I knew it. I honestly don't get them all right, but I was sitting with some friends watching the draft, and I got a couple of looks of amazement because I said Brashard Perriman 5 seconds before Baltimore, and I predicted it last week on the show, but I said it, and then they go, the Baltimore Ravens select, and everybody looks at me, and I did it again with the Patriots. I said, I guarantee you they're taking Malcolm Brown right here, man, and boom, there you go, man. I knew that was a Patriots pick. You could just feel it coming. And now, hey, I know I've got a couple of minutes with you here, then we're going to wrap up.
Actually, I got to kind of wrap up just about now, unfortunately, but I kind of have to get going right about now.
Oh, absolutely. All right, then hit the bricks, man. See you later.
Sorry. See ya.
All right. Jeff Gorman, my man from Browns101.com, looking ahead here to today, and I'm going to hit the brakes anyway, man. My man was up against it there. I had to let him go. Now, looking at just some of the players that are left, some guys that any of these names, man, I would love to hear the Browns call when 43 comes around. I mean, we mentioned the wide receivers. You've got Jalen Strong, who I don't know if he's going to survive there, because he's definitely one of the best players still left, period, on the board. You got Devin Smith, if you're looking Ohio State-ish there. You've got several different guys. Eli Harold, there's somebody, because I think the Browns got to get a wide receiver an edge pass rusher here, somebody to get after the quarterback. Those would be the two positions that I'd really like to see handled now with this part of the draft. And so, I mean, there's a couple of names right there, and of course there's several others. I mean, there's a large grouping of players. It's one of the things I mentioned I kind of like about how the NFL. It's the one thing about splitting it off, is that now you wipe off the first grouping of players and you look at everybody that's left, and you kind of attack it again from a different point of view. So you know what? I'll talk a little bit more about this here a little later on in the show. We're up at the end of the first hour. Let's get the break going. Let's get some news coming at you, and let's get Mike Brandenberry in on the show. We're going to shift gears a little bit in hour two. We'll talk some Tribe, talk some Cavaliers, as the Cavaliers are coming up with some NBA second round action against the Chicago Bulls. I see the phones ringing. I'll get to those. I can't take it now. I got to get to the break, but I'll get another call in here on the phone here before we go. But we're going to hit the break, get you some news. We'll get Mike Brandenberry in on the conversation and more. Don't go anywhere. Hour two of the Sports Fix coming up next.
The Sports Fix, your choice for intelligent talk.
That was wonderful.
Bravo!
I loved that.
Oh, it was great.
Intelligent talk.
Well, it was pretty good.
Well, it wasn't bad.
Well, there were parts of it that weren't very good,
It
though.
could have been a lot better.
I didn't really like it.
These guys must be on the wrong station.
It was pretty terrible.
It was bad.
It was awful.
It was
Get
terrible.
him away!
Hey, boo!
Boo!
The Sports Fix.
Sports Fix listeners, do you tweet? So do we. So tweet with us 24/7 at the Sports Fix CLE.
How to be a great dad in 15 seconds. Bike ride, go fish, walk in the park, phone call, milkshake, play catch, picnic, fly a kite, tell jokes, laugh, talk, read a story, tell a story, bumper car, swing set, bowling, pillow fight, cut loose, stay tight. Whew. Because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
you gotten your copy of Cleveland's Finest yet? Highlighting the best moments, players, and media members in Cleveland sports history? In-depth personal interviews with some of the top names in Cleveland sports fill the pages of this incredible book. Cleveland's Finest by Vince McKee is this year's must-have book for every Cleveland sports fan. Available now at Amazon.com. Get your copy today.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix at AOL.com. That's thesportsfix at AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
News break.
Good morning, I'm Bob Picozzi. It's only the 6th time that the first 2 picks of the NFL draft are quarterbacks. After considering trade offers from several teams, Tennessee decided to use the 2nd overall pick to select Oregon quarterback Marcus Mariota. And ESPN Monday Night Football analyst John Gruden told Chris Berman the Titans made a wise decision.
It's a rare combination of quickness. That's the big thing with this kid. Mental quickness, arm quickness, and body quickness. And he's going to be a quick study. Just take the time to train him. You watch, Chris. He's going to be a fast-track quarterback in this league. The
draft continues tonight with the second round, 7 o'clock Eastern Time on ESPN TV, 6:30 on ESPN Radio. In the NBA playoffs, the home team is yet to lose in the Hawks-Nets series. It continues tonight with Atlanta visiting Brooklyn in Game 6, 8 o'clock Eastern Time on ESPN. The Hawks lead the Eastern Conference first-round best-of-7, 3-2. Not a single Milwaukee player scored in double figures last night in a 54-point home loss to Chicago. The Bulls win 120-66 to win the series in 6. Joel Ward's goal with 1.3 seconds left gave the Caps a 1-0 win over the Rangers in Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Eastern semis.
Sports Center is brought to you by True Car. If you're in the market for a new car and want to have an amazing new experience buying it, you need to check out True Car. Save time, save money, and never overpay. Download the True Car app today.
You're listening to the Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix live across the Sports Fix Radio Network. J-Rocc back with you guys here, getting ready to kick into hour 2 of the show as we roll on, and a whole lot to get into, guys. I see the phones blowing up. I've got Mike Brandenberry getting ready to join us here from didthetry.winlastnight.com. I want to get some of your calls in as well, but I'm going to have to close the phone lines here for a few moments. I got to get Mike in on the conversation, guys. Sit tight. We're going to get things going here as we get back in. J-Rocc with you here. We're talking Browns, talking Cavs, talking Tribe. Hour 2 just getting going. You can keep talking with us on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at thesportsfixCLE. Email us thesportsfix@AOL.com. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at thesportsfixCLE. Email us thesportsfix@AOL.com as we continue to get back into it here on the show. I'm getting ready to go to the phone lines here. You know what, caller? You guys are going to have to sit tight on the phone lines because I've got Mike coming in on the call, and I got a funny feeling that the phones are going to be talking some NFL here and some Browns. Just sit tight, guys. I'm going to the phones. Mike Brandenberry, are you with me, my friend?
I am. How are you?
Good. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing good. It's amazing how things can change in a week since we last talked.
I'm scared to know which way that we're even going with this conversation. I can't lie. First off, and I mentioned this a bit yesterday when I texted you to let you know that I was not going to be in the office yesterday. I was so hoping that they'd at least be on a winning streak here. The Indians, that is, and so I'm like, man, then at least I got that, and I could keep deflecting Mike Brandenberry off with, hey man, last I saw, the Indians were on a winning streak. But no, they let me down just a little bit last night. But you know what? They did it again under the shade of the NFL draft or the NBA playoffs or whatever. So they remain saved at the time being from now. But I know you're not happy. I know you would probably prefer we just did this whole conversation without talking about baseball, huh?
Sure. I would rather talk about Kevin Love's shoulder, which is like the most excruciating, painful thing to me in the world, than talk about the Indians. But I think you brought up a good point, Jerry, in that they're flying under the radar. The problem is if they don't do something fast, they're going to stay under the radar. And it's convenient for them to be under the radar right now. But if they continue to play poorly into May and wherever anyone wants to draw their line of, when it's early is over, if you're a Memorial Day guy, a 40-game guy, or wherever it is you're drawing the line, we're closing in on it not being early anymore. We're getting closer to those benchmarks. And the thing is, if things don't change and they don't change quickly, we're going to be having conversations. I don't think we'll have this conversation. I was going to say we'll be having a conversation in June or July as to why attendance is so low, but I don't think we will have that conversation because it'll be obvious because there's no reason to go down there and watch this team. They're unwatchable right now, and that hasn't changed from last week at all. Yeah. I think, they have to, if it's me, and I'm not sure that they're resigned to admitting this yet, but if it was me, I would be looking at this roster right now and asking myself, I'm not advocating for blowing this roster up sky high or anything crazy, but because it's only 20 games in, what moves can be made to try and make some immediate improvements? And I think there are some subtle ones there if they want to make them, but I'll be honest, yes. I think at this point they don't want to make them.
I'm with you. That's kind of, and I'm glad you set that up because that was the track that I wanted to go with this conversation anyway. Is let's not, you can sit here and beat yourself up with the hammer of they're doing this wrong. We know, as you said, things become obvious. You're watching it. I mean, I think that the Indians are going to be coming out of this, and they are better than what they are. It doesn't matter. I can't argue with what they're doing right now. And with that said, what can happen? And the first thing, the obvious to me place is before you look anywhere else, is you look within yourself. Obviously, that means guys playing better, but that goes without being said. All the talk, and I still think it's so comical to come back around to Nick Swisher after all this stuff. But regardless of him, he is part of a handful of guys that are in a discussion down below that have been playing well on the pitching side and on the offensive side, to where I'm not saying there's a white knight coming through on a horse, but with, Zach Walters getting back in there and hitting a little bit, and Nick Swisher is at least getting back in there and hitting the ball a little bit. And I think Swisher, I've mentioned this, brings more than just the ability to play baseball, hopefully, to this team, but that, the whole thing that some people get on him for when he's not playing well, the good attitude, the enthusiasm, that's something that this team needs when it's scuffling. Maybe he can help that way. But whether it's those guys, whether it's, hey, Sean Markham and Bruce Chen have done relatively well at the, AAA level, it is what it is. But if you need some boys here, I think there's maybe a little bit more movement they can make before you start looking outside. But where are you at on that stuff?
Yeah, I agree with some of that. I think I agree in some regards that it is early, and a lot of what I said last week I still stand by, is that
I know.
Their problems are the same ones that they had a year ago and have had longer than that. And I think there are some guys that they have to look at that are currently on this roster, and they have to say, look, if we're going to stop this bleeding before it's too late, we have to come to grips with the fact that David Murphy doesn't have a role on this team. And, it'd be nice if somebody would pick up his contract, but he's not getting onto the field. He can't be one of their everyday ball players on a team that is drowning in the standings. He's a defensive nightmare. He brings nothing to the table. Whoever, if create any role that you'd like. I mean, I think it's easy to say a guy like Tyler Holt makes them better defensively, but choose anyone. Choose anyone that has a role. If he has a role, then it's better than what David Murphy is providing, because he doesn't provide a role right now. And I think they have to come to grips with some of that. They're not in the situation of wait and see or ride this out for another month or 6 weeks and see if somebody has an injury and might be willing to take him. 6 weeks from now, their season can be over, Jerry,
Yeah,
and
I know.
and it'll be far from early. So, I think there are some guys that they have to take long, hard looks at in the next couple weeks, and I don't know if they are ready to take long, hard looks at them the way that maybe some of us are. But I mean, I would be taking a long, hard look at David Murphy. I'd be taking a long, hard look at Lonnie Chisenhall. Chisenhall's a guy that we talked about at the beginning of the season. He's moving his way with every day into, my label of the $6 million man. He's a guy who, if he plays out this entire season and he plays 130 games and he hits 240 and makes 25 errors, which is, where he's headed for, if he does that, as crazy as it sounds, I mean, that guy's going to get another $1.5 million to $2 million in arbitration on a financially strapped team where we all know there's a budget and it matters. I mean, is Lonnie Chisenhall a guy that you're willing to give, somewhere around $4 to $5 million for 2016 for? To me, that's ludicrous.
And you know what? Real quick, let me jump in there, because that was a name that I bypassed here when I said, hey, looking at guys also that, maybe you're on the outside of the bubble discussion, and maybe this is your guy here that I'm going to bring up. You know where I'm going, and maybe he's a little bit further out of the bubble, but you got a guy like Urshela, who's coming back around now, and to me, again, when these guys aren't, because you've got to figure out what is that point where you start to look and you bring up Chisenhall, because that to me is one of the variables that comes into play if you decide to go in a different direction, obviously.
Absolutely. And I guess for lack of a better term, giving up on Chisenhall, I would be willing to give up on him now, because as crazy as it sounds, I would be willing to go with Mike Aviles on a somewhat regular basis at third base right now, just from a defensive improvement alone. I don't think they would go to Urshela, and I'm not sure that even myself would be
he still
super
needs time.
comfortable
He
with
needs
that, just
time,
because he's
yeah.
coming off of injury. But to me, if you go with a guy like Aviles now, if this season continues to go south, Aviles becomes a guy that you're not going to get anything for, but you might move him come July to open up another roster spot for another young guy to get an opportunity in the second half of this season. Aviles is a free agent at the end of the year, and with the number of young infielders that they have, I can't see him returning in 2016 unless it's on, a much smaller contract, and he's making $3.5 million this year. I mean, I would think some things would have to change that won't. I mean, I think he can still get a salary comparable to that from another team. So I would be willing to ride with him in the short term until Urshela is ready, maybe at mid-season. And, like I said, I mean, Murphy's a guy that I would be willing to give up on. Chisenhall's a guy I'm willing to give up on. In some regards, of course, I mean, not to bang the same drum over and over, but part of where I say I think they're not afraid, or they're not willing to make those moves, I think, one, the Indians aren't willing to eat David Murphy's salary yet, and two, the Indians aren't willing to go to Francisco Lindor, but that would be a move that I would make also. Jose Ramirez is struggling. Jose Ramirez, I'm going to continue to say it until people begin to listen and will finally agree, but Jose Ramirez will be a good big leaguer when he's playing 3 or 4 days a week, when he's in a Micah Vilas role, and I would get that started today. And that's a move I would make where he kind of, he needs a little bit of a reset button to his season and take a step back and play in a smaller role and play a little bit of second base. He'll be a defensive upgrade. He's a guy who, if not your everyday shortstop, he can come in and spell Jason Kipnis after his 4th at bat in a close game and shore up your defense. I think there will be a day, regardless, this year where Jose Ramirez and Francisco Lindor will turn some double play that we haven't seen in a long, long time around here, and people will start talking about if there's a possibility that Jason Kipnis could play somewhere else. I think that stuff is a possibility. I still think that Ramirez's best role is as kind of that, super utility guy. But they've got to make some moves to improve not just their defense but their offense. It's the same players in a lot of ways that are floundering on both ends, and I mean making realistic improvements. I was telling someone this morning, I mean, we can all say, well, Michael Bourne's not very good anymore and he's not hitting and he's a liability in center field. We should just get rid of him. Well, that sounds good, but it's not realistic. I mean, the guy's got an 8-figure contract. Nobody's coming to take him, and they're not going to eat, a $30 million commitment that they still have in him. So to me, that's not realistic. What are realistic changes that can be made? And, I would say the same for their bullpen. I think personally for me, I think we've gone down the Nick Hagedorn experience long enough. I mean, I feel like I was in college when Nick Hagedorn first came up, and he's always been close to putting it together. I mean, maybe he just won't, Jerry. I mean, maybe it's that simple. Maybe after 5 years of up and down between Cleveland and Columbus, maybe he just is what he is. And what he is not a very reliable left-handed reliever. And I mean, right now, Kyle Crockett is sitting at AAA, and he's better than Nick Hagedorn, plain and simple. He's better. The only reason he's in Columbus and Nick Hagedorn's not is options. And, the Indians are, last in the standings, and they're not playing with their best available team. I mean, it's easy to say, well, they've had injuries. Well, they're injuring themselves in all these ways as they play without their best assets available to them. And I think the next guy that needs to go, maybe not to the I'm done with them list, but he needs to reacclimate himself with the greater Columbus area is TJ House. And the best thing going for next. TJ House right now is that they don't have anybody to replace him. But the problem is, I mean, you brought up Markham and Bruce Chen. It's easy to point to those guys, and I'd be all for it. And it's another move that I don't know that the Indians want to make. But to get those guys to Cleveland, they've got to designate somebody for assignment off their 40-man roster. And who's that going to be? I mean, I can give you a list. I just did. But I don't think they're ready to make those moves. And, I mean, Chris Antonetti met with the local media on Monday and said he still believes in this roster.
Yep.
My question would be, how much longer is he going to believe in this roster? Because, I mean, let's be honest. This team's not going to play 333 ball all year. But this team, as it's currently composed, they're not going anywhere near the playoffs either. So if you want to fix your season, then you got to start doing something to fix it, not just keep sitting around saying it's early.
Oh, I absolutely agree with everything that you just said. I was going to bring up House next as you went to him anyway, because here you see what happened yesterday, and man, he's just whatever is, and I think that kid had some potential, man, but clearly he is just not.
And I don't want to sound like picking on the guy who's down, and I think I said said this probably in a positive manner last year, but I've seen TJ House in the minor leagues for several years, Jerry, and he's a good pitcher. I never looked at that guy at any level and said, there is a guy who's going to go out and give you 30 starts and a chance to win at the big league level. And I don't even mean that as any kind of put down or slam. I feel like they're asking for too much from him. And I said this last year in ways that I was surprised that he was getting it done. I think, unfortunately, he's probably not as bad as he's been this year, but I'm not sure that he was as good as what he was last year either.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense there, too. And like you said, talking about the best thing for him is that he doesn't have a whole lot of options there because every move, and I think sometimes people don't understand that. It's not just picking a guy to send down. There's all kinds of ramifications with the 40-man, and guys can only be moved. Certain guys can only be moved certain ways, and so it's not. It's a puzzle. It's Jenga. Every time you move one, you got to make sure that the corresponding move is what you want to do. Because pointing at those guys, and like I said, the reason I brought those guys up, we've been talking about them, but doing what they should be doing. Down in AAA, I mean, Sean Markham's looked good in a couple of starts. Chen as well has done the same thing. They could fill a gap if need be, but none of them can fill in the entire season long, man. Of all those guys down there, I mean, what do you think? Swisher, I mean, it's easy to say, hey, he's hitting, but he is hitting well early on, and they have taken their time with him all along, saying that this was the only way to make sure that we're not wasting our time here with this whole thing to try to actually get something out of this here. What do you think, man? I mean, from what he's done so far, do you think that there's at least some potential here to get a good version, or at least the best version that exists in 2015 of Nick Swisher?
I think there's a possibility to get a decent hitter out of him. I'll be the first to run to the front of the line and admit I was wrong if he is in any way an acceptable or average to above average defender. I can't see him. I know they want him to go back out and play the outfield again.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure where that fits, Jerry.
I don't
other
see him
than
playing the
other
outfield,
than DH with this team. I mean, other than the fact that other than the fact that he's just a terrible first baseman, so they're moving him back out to the outfield.
That's it too,
and that he should have a position other than DH. I'm not really sure why they're going down that road, other than just to have some kind of option. But I think the approach that they've taken is the right approach. I mean, look, we saw what hurt Nick Swisher look like last year.
Yes,
it wasn't a pretty picture. So, there's no reason to rush back to that. If anything, the Indians have the market cornered right now on aging veterans who are playing below their capabilities. There's no reason to hurry him back to that. So, if it takes a couple more weeks to get him ready and get the organization and he on the same page where they feel like they're all in a place where he can go out and play. And I think that's the thing too, is he's got to be able to play on a regular basis. They also have a roster of guys who are somewhat platoon players or role players. And so I think before they put him on the roster, they've got to feel like he's got to be able to give them at least 5 days a week in the lineup, especially if he's going to be predominantly just a DH. So I think there's possibility there. I would say be guarded in what you consider a possibility. First, go look at Nick Swisher's numbers for his career with good knees and the way he's played. That guy's not going to hit you, 300. He's not going to hit 30 home runs. He's never been that guy. If you want to say that the Indians overpaid for him, that's fine, and that's probably a different conversation. But he's never been that guy. He's not going to be that guy now either. I think if you can get him healthy, I think he's got potential. Let's say he's on the active roster in mid-May. Let's just say May 15th. He's here and playing every day, or most days. I think he's got the ability to give you 15 to 18 home runs this year and hit 260. And if you look around on the stat sheet right now, that would make him a pretty big ray of sunshine.
Yeah, big bopper in the middle of that lineup with those numbers you just threw out there, man. Babe Ruth reincarnated, brother.
I mean, people think I'm the dark cloud putting this team down, but I mean the numbers don't lie.
No, I understand.
The idea
man.
that a 260 hitter would be a vast improvement. I mean, that speaks for itself. I don't know what to tell anybody if they feel like that's a slam. I mean, I'm not the guy. I'm just reciting the stats. They're the ones that created them.
Mike, I'm with you. Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTryWinLastNight.com. We're looking just like you guys, digging around, looking for pieces in the toolbox that can help the Indians here as they keep going. Of course, they've got this series keeping going. They've got 3 more here coming up over the weekend with Toronto. And I don't know if you're heading up to the ballpark at all this weekend. Hopefully the crowd's a little bit less sparse than they've been during the week. Safe to say was no big uptick in games attended by people an hour earlier. And when you add into that the way they've been playing, man, it's been some pitiful crowds this week. But you don't expect anything different. Like I said, I mean, they've been playing the way they've been playing. But are you heading down this weekend at all?
I am somewhere. I'm listed somewhere probably between questionable and doubtful. I'm not gonna lie to you. First of all, like I said, they're unwatchable.
I know.
It's hard. It's hard for me to justify buying a ticket to go down and watch right now. I'll tell you, Steve Eby's one of our writers, and we work together. And I said to him today, I said, what would it take? I said, today's Friday. You don't have to work tomorrow. I said, it's a nice day outside. It's supposed to be, I looked on my phone, I think 62 degrees at 7 o'clock.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Beautiful.
I'm like, what would it take to get you to the ballpark tonight? And he laughed, and he was like, well, if they traded for like some major impact player, pick anybody. His answer was Mike Trout, but he said, if they acquired some impact player, that would get me excited to go down there. And I said, what if they brought Lindor up? He goes, well, maybe. And he said, maybe. But he goes, I'd at least have it on the radio and pay close attention while I was doing whatever else it is I'm doing. But
no, I hear you though. I hear you.
But that's the thing, Jerry, and that's where I say, they've done, positive and negative. They've flown under the radar, but they don't want to fly under the radar all season long. But they're on the cusp already. And I talked to another friend this morning. I tweeted an article from Fangraphs about Indians defense and how essentially they have one of the best pitching staffs in baseball, but their defense is so bad that they're ruining it. And a friend of mine sent me the story, and I read it, and I said, good story, and we were talking, and I said, you know me, I love baseball. I said, but I don't love Indians baseball right now. I said, it's bad to watch. I can't justify going to watch it. And we had the same conversation, he and I. We've watched other teams as much as we've watched the Indians so far this season because it's a good game. It's a fun game. I really do like baseball, but watching them stand around, not score, and then, force their pitchers to be perfect or make mistakes and errors behind them, it's tough to watch. I mean, you watched that game last night. I mean, the Blue Jays put 5 runs up in the 4th inning, and you knew that game was over. I mean, there was an hour and a half left of that to watch, and you knew the Indians aren't scoring 6 runs.
No, I hear you. And you totally get that feeling, and how, again, the difference.
I don't know how I could tell anybody to buy a ticket and go watch that.
First time around, you're going okay, and then boom, just like that. And like you said, you're right, man. And and that's part of why, the other thing, the intangible, I guess, with Swisher coming back, as I said, is that maybe they feel like they're just not. What did Jeff say the other day? It was a good description. Just it's a bunch of guys playing individually, and it just doesn't, even if they're trying to get out of it, it just doesn't feel like a team, like they're not having fun. Obviously, you can't be enjoying yourselves when it's scuffling like this.
I agree, and I know what you mean by that. Feel like for lack of a better way to describe it, they need some Brohio in them right now.
That's what I'm thinking, is that he brings that smiling, abusive, ebullient, effusive personality.
Yeah, and I would say Paul Hoynes has a term called zombie baseball, where
that's what they're playing.
Like,
yes,
they've mailed it in, and I don't want to say that this team has quit in any way, because I don't think they have, but this team definitely has that zombie baseball look for the first time under Terry Francona, for sure.
I agree. They absolutely do, and that's part of why I'm thinking, man, hey, this could be. And I'm like, hey, what a story that is, too, because he's rightfully so taking a lot of slack and a lot of things over the last couple of seasons. And then there you go, maybe. But I just thought, boy, that's the one thing he definitely brings to the table. Even when he's hitting 200, he's having a good day, and he's trying to help other people have a good day. And right now, the Indians just need some help having a couple good days in a row.
Yeah, and that lifeless attitude, I guess, that they have right now, I mean, to me, that's all the more reason that they need to make some changes. And look, I don't have any inside knowledge to what I'm about to say, but, I mean, just common sense tells me, there's guys in that locker room that are not just unhappy with the way they're playing, but they're unhappy with their role, too. And if those guys aren't playing well, I mean, some of those guys need to go. This roster's not working. And, Chris Antonetti said on Monday he still believes in this roster. Well, I don't. And it's time to make some changes before it's too late. And that lifeless attitude is as much anything as a good reason as to why some changes need to be made.
Absolutely. That's not change for the sake of change. That's saying, hey, we need to shake things up here. We need to do something. And so many times you hear seasons described as, hey, that was the point where, things turned around, or where things changed. Well, that has to happen. So it's got to be something there that triggers that. Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com. We're talking some Indians. Let's shift just a little bit before I let you go. Cavaliers, of course, you brought it up at the beginning of this. The whole Kevin Love thing really changes the dynamic since the last time you and I talked. Not just here, but potentially you may have seen the last of Kevin Love as a Cavalier, which is a whole nother conversation for later. But right now, the Cavs can't worry about anything but bunkering down, because Chicago, boy, last night, I thought it might go to 7 because the last few games, Milwaukee took care of business. Chicago, they did more than just take care of business last night. They ran them boys out of their own gym, doubled them up. They won by 50, 60 points or something. I mean, they just destroyed the Bucks last night. But I'm still looking at this series now, and I'm going, hey, this is going to be a more competitive series without Kevin Love, but I'm up for it. Bring on the Bulls. But where are you at now, heading into Chicago?
Yeah, what are the stages of loss? I've never been familiar.
Grief, denial.
I've never been familiar with all of them, or the order they go in or anything. But I think I've experienced them all in the last week when it's come to Kevin Love. I mean, you know me. I've been as high as anybody on this Cavs team, and I really honestly have never been all that impressed with the Bulls all year. To me, the Bulls are the classic PlayStation team. They have a lot of good players, but they just never seem to put it together. And on PlayStation, they're the team that you want to be, because all those players have like 99 ratings, but in reality, they're just not quite that good. And the Cavs, as crazy as their season has gone, they've really had success with Chicago at every juncture of the way. I mean, they beat them early, they beat them in the middle of the year, and they beat them late when they had everything clicking. So the Bulls were never a team that scared me, of course, until Love got hurt. And, in the short term, I think the loss of J.R. Smith is as bad as losing Kevin Love, because now now they're playing without 2 starters for the first 2 games. And I think, I went from, in the beginning, from like the moment that Love got hurt, I felt like the whole world freaked out, and at first I didn't, because unfortunately, I've seen him run off the court before, and it didn't look good, but I've seen him run off the court and play the next day or play a week later, and the same with Kyrie. I mean, I forget who the opponent was, but early in the year, he went down one time, and people were like, oh, my God, it looks like he tore his ACL. I mean, I don't know what a torn ACL looks like on TV. I mean, I've seen people do it, but I'd love these Twitter doctors that see these things.
The Twitter doctors, I love them. I love them.
Diagnosed right away. So.
I've seen that. That's a torn quad, man. He's down for 8 months.
So, I mean, kudos to the Twitter doctors who nailed it this time. But, I mean, I was immediately, started concerned, but I wasn't, looking for the 480 bridge or anything. And as that evening went on, and then, when JR kind of lost his cool, then it began to set in that this was like the most painful 4-game sweep of all time.
Oh, yeah. Most costly, for sure.
For sure. So I think as the week has gone on, I'm with you, and I forget what your words were when you kind of transitioned to the Cavs, but something about, hunker down and grind.
Yeah.
That's my exact mentality now, and I think that's what the Cavs will be, and I hope that the city kind of embraces that too, and not to get cliche or not to put this on the fans in any way or anything, but it almost seemed too easy until Kevin Love got hurt, and this town has never had anything easy.
Now we're gonna have to earn it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
we're gonna have to earn it.
And now you're gonna have to earn it. And my heart of hearts tells me, I really feel like right now you can look at the Eastern Conference and the Nets and the Hawks are still alive, and the Bulls and Washington and the Cavs, and of those 5 teams, I mean, if I had to pick a team to beat today, I'd still pick the Cavs. And I like the Cavs over the Bulls.
Yep.
They still, in my opinion, go into that series with the 2 best players. I mean, I guess you can argue that maybe Derrick Rose is better than Kyrie, but I mean, personally, I disagree. And the Bulls are turning the ball over a lot. I mean, I know they boat raced Milwaukee last night, but if you look at the 5 games beforehand, Milwaukee had pretty good leads in all of those games.
All of them. That series could have went a different way.
You could easily argue, they were 1 shot away in Game 3 for the Bulls having to play that Game 6 to save their series and force a Game 7.
I said the same thing, Mike. Said the same thing.
So I'm not worried. I mean, I'm concerned. I don't think anybody should be overlooked or anybody should be taken for granted. But I like having the 2 best players going into the series. I don't think that the Bulls are as good as, maybe the national media makes them out to be. Derrick Rose has turned the ball over a ton. And I look at what Michael Carter-Williams did to the Bulls and to Derrick Rose and to their defense. And why can't Kyrie Irving do that?
He will.
I mean, why can't he do the exact same thing? And I know you're not a big LeBron guy.
No, it's not that. Don't say that. I just don't. Let's be fair. It's not that I'm not a big LeBron guy. It's that I refuse to. I can't be hypocritical. I can't sit here and say, yay, LeBron, thanks for coming home. Now, he is slowly doing the things that I say, hey, man, if you do this stuff, you can't argue with the guy. I've never discredited his play on the basketball court. I don't like what he did to Cleveland, and he's got a little more work to do before it's just all is forgiven as far as I'm concerned. But it's not like I deny that he can play some ball. Let's be fair. I just hate what he did to Cleveland, and it's going to take a little more than I'm coming home to make up for it.
Well, I think your healing process will be completely mended if LeBron, and where I was going is, I think he has an opportunity, which I'm sure he would prefer to not have, but he has an opportunity right now that in a lot of ways I'm not sure that any star that I can think of in NBA history has in front of him, in that, I mean, he's lost a major player to his roster and his team for the season. I mean, even if Kevin Love would have, I mean, say this would have happened in game 20 and, or say he would have been the one that blew his ACL out instead of Varejao. I mean, there are 60 games to recuperate and prepare before the
Not
playoffs.
now. Yeah, exactly.
LeBron is truly in a situation where he can, I mean, I don't want to say completely put the team on his shoulders, but he has the opportunity to put the team on his shoulders and take them to a championship. And that's something that, all of the greats would never be able to say. Michael Jordan never, won a championship. He didn't win without Scottie Pippen went down, or Horace Grant went down. Same for Larry Bird. I mean, Larry Bird never won a championship, with Kevin McHale sitting on the bench injured. So, I think he has an incredible opportunity for him, and I think we all know that if he were to pull it off, I mean, he and Kyrie are going to have an amazing 6 weeks in front of us if they're able to pull that off. And I think for people like you that still feel like there'll be some fences need mended, he'll mend them all in the next 6 weeks if that happens.
It's been happening. Let's not act like the last 6 months hasn't happened. I mean, little by little, if you listen to the show every day, I say, hey, man, I give credit here and there. To me, it was incredibly hypocritical to be one of those people who railed against the man for 4+ years and then to just flip a switch, because in real life it doesn't work that way. I mean, I'm an incredibly positive person too, but hell, I think of some of my personal relationships against people that I actually know, and it takes a little bit sometimes to get through stuff like that, So whatever, but it is what I always laugh because
I completely agree.
You know
with
what
you.
I mean? You know what I mean.
I have friends. I tell people all the time, and it has nothing to do with LeBron or sports or anything. People treat you the way they treat you for a reason. They want something, they need something. They really appreciate you. They don't have respect for you. However they treat you, good, bad, or indifferent, they treat you that way for a reason. And I mean, the way LeBron treated Cleveland, 5 years ago, is certainly different than the way he's treated Cleveland since he's returned. And I think he has different reasons for sure. I think he's grown up for sure. His attitude, his ideas have all changed, but he's still the same person. He still, made those choices and those actions as to how he handled things. And one of the things I tell people all the time is never forget. And that has nothing. That's why I said has nothing to do with LeBron or sports
in general,
or anything.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Just never forget how people treat you, because even though, if they treated you poorly once before, people make mistakes. People can right their wrongs. But, it should always be in the back of your mind. And I agree with you. I mean, I certainly am all in on the Cavs, and not just because they took the slogan. I mean, I've been on the bandwagon, riding high. So I really feel like, you take it one day at a time at this point, and you try to grind it out. But I like their chances in the East, and if they're able to get through the East and get to the finals, worry about the finals when we get there. I think that'll be an uphill battle, but, not to be too cliche, but, one day at a time and get there when you can. But I agree with you for all of that and all that's in front of them. I mean, I'll never forget what happened. And I'll be one, I don't think LeBron's leaving, but I'll never forget as to what happened, and don't rule it out that, things can't go sideways and something goes wrong here and he can leave again. I mean, it can happen again. And that's where I say, never forget. I mean, I honestly don't think he's going anywhere, but who knows? I mean, some terrible predicament lays out.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean, absolutely. And I'll tell you what, though, here's the other thing. For me, and I wonder how many people out there listening, and I wonder if you take it the same way, but my whole feeling about the Cavs' playoff run changed in a better way with this. I mean, to me, not that, like you said, not that it was too easy, but it was different. Like now to me, it's more of an underdog feel. It's more of a, there's 3 rounds left, and now, like watching that first round, even if Love doesn't get hurt, watching the first round was boring because it's like the object is how many games will they win by how many points, not is this a competitive series. And you start looking ahead and you go, what, there's 3, maybe 4 teams that could have a competitive series with the Cavs. Takes a lot of the fun out of playoff basketball, and to me now, this is real. This is fun, man. This is that now it's going to be fun because you got to win 3 series. You've got to hunker down, as I said. You've got to do it, but you're missing a guy. You're an underdog. It's now on the fly. I'm way more mentally and emotionally invested now because now you've truly got to fight, not just to beat Chicago, but that's just the middle. You have 2 more series after that you'll have to fight through as well. But it becomes so much more of a challenge, so much more of a ride now without it, that I know you don't want to lose a guy like Kevin Love, but to me, the Cavs are no longer the guy with the bullseye on him. Yeah, LeBron's always going to have a bullseye, but now there's a little more, Cleveland can't do it without Kevin Love. Cleveland will do all right, but so now they're the underdogs a little bit. It changes the dynamic in a good way for me.
Yeah, Clevelanders don't get to be the favorite very often. I like being the favorite for.
I know. We talked about that before.
That's about how long it lasted. But one of LeBron's lines in his return, in his letter is, in Northeast Ohio, nothing is given, everything is earned. It almost, like you said, it almost kind of felt like, not like it was a foregone conclusion, but it was given.
Yes.
I kind of laughed. Where I saw a story that playoff tickets weren't selling on second-party markets because people were saving their money for future
for the next round because they
when
knew
was
there
the
was
last
going to be
time
more.
that mentality ever happened in Cleveland? I'll wait for the future rounds because we're not going anywhere.
Yep.
And like you said, it's definitely a hunker in and hunker down and one day at a time and grind it out. And I think it'll be interesting. I think once JR gets back, they'll be able to spread the floor a little better. My honest hope, and I think I started to say this before, I always hate when people put some kind of onus on the fans because I don't want to say fans don't matter because that's not true. And if you look at that ball game that was played in Baltimore, how strange it was with no crowd. Definitely affects the game. But I think, people that have attended a number of Cavs games know that it hasn't had that hostile environment that it has had in the past. And they're going to need that. And that home court, that needs to be something that the Cavs keep and control as much as possible because now that they're less than 100%, winning on the road is going to be even more important. And it's my hope that that's a hostile environment come Monday night, and that's a place that I think you can affect emotion, and I think you can, fire up that roster, and I think we all know that Kyrie and LeBron are going to have to play out of their mind, and giving them an adrenaline boost to play 44 minutes instead of 38. I think some of that does come back on the crowd at times, and it's gonna take those guys, and it's gonna take the city. I think
it really is. It's
to
not
grind
a
it out
cliche.
one day at a time, and I think if the Cavs can defend home court, that would be outstanding in that series. But even if they can get a split to start, would be fantastic. I've had people tell me they're going to go down 0-2, and once they get JR back, hopefully they can go on a run. And I'm like, no. I don't see that happening. They gotta get 1 out of 2 at least, but defend home court for sure.
I agree with every single word you said. It sounds cliche, but really this is where the fans pick it up, and that really makes a difference. I remember when they were trying to get over the hump with Detroit. It was that mad atmosphere, and I remember watching Detroit melt down when the crowd was going crazy, the calls were going against them, and LeBron was doing his thing, and you watch Rasheed Wallace throw his headband into the crowd and get kicked out of the game, and you watch him melt down, and it's going to take all of that here for the Cavs to get where they want to go. To me, the playoffs got a whole lot more, not that they weren't exciting, man, but it goes to a different danger level because now you actually can lose at any point, and it did not have that feeling a few days ago. You hate to lose Kevin Love, but you really are living on the edge of a lightning bolt now for these Cavs playoffs starting on Monday.
Right. And I think, for all the things that have gone bad for them in the last week, the idea that they've had a week to get ready, prepare, it's kind of the way I started. I feel like I've gone through stages of grieving. Well, I hope they have too, and come out the other side and, let's get after it.
Me too, Mike. Let's get after it. That starts on Monday. Good weekend here. We'll see what happens with the Tribe and the Blue Jays, and we'll talk about that next week. You and I, hopefully, we're talking about a good start to this series before it shifts to Chicago, and hopefully a good week for the Indians as they can get April behind them, and at least on the calendar, it's a fresh start beginning today.
Sounds good. The Indians are nothing if not consistent with their April swoons. 11-17 last year, followed up by 7-14. So, finding new ways to be subpar early in the season, and I'm with you. Hopefully May gets the April stink off fast.
Yeah, hopefully, man. Hopefully. April showers bring May flowers. Let's see if that applies to baseball. Mike, have a good one. Enjoy the week, and you and I will catch up next week.
Take care. Thanks for having me.
Got it. My man, Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com. Make sure you guys check it out and bookmark it. And, of course, they're always doing some great stuff all week long over there. DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com. All right, we're going to take a break. Final break of the day. Final break of the week. Come back and set the stage for the weekend. Mayweather-PacMan, and wrapping it up. Don't go anywhere. Final segment of The Fix coming up next.
Watch life go by. These thoughts I have, I can't mold the sense. Through the forest of my mind, they're all past tense. Born and raised in the outer lands, and at times you can say.
And now, a very special announcement from the Sports Fix.
Black bears weigh between 200 and 500 pounds. Brown bears weigh between 300 and over 1,000 pounds. Black bears run away from you. Brown bears run at you. When attacked by a bear, simply lie still on the ground and cover your face and head with your hands. When the bear is finished batting you around and mauling you, contact the U.S. Forest Service.
And that was a message from the Sports Fix.
Guys, want to take just a second as we head into this break and remind you about the official business printing source of the Sports Fix, our friends at Signs and Ship. Signs and Ship, I'm telling you, Chris and Pam, they've taken care of me since day one, and they can do the same for you. Whether you're a small business that's already been established and you're looking to grow to that next level and expand your business, or perhaps you've got an idea that you just know is going to be a great business and you need to figure out how to brand it and how to promote it and put it out there, Signs and Ship is the place for you. If you need a logo, they can create one for you. They have a fantastic graphic designer. Business cards, signs, banners, yard signs, mobile advertising, anything you can think of that you need to promote your business, they've got it at Signs and Ship. The best thing about them, too, is each of their locations, whether it's the home base here in Elyria, Ohio that I work with, or their spots in Virginia, Florida, and Pennsylvania, it's all local sourced. Very important to me because we all understand that small business is the lifeblood of the community. So check them out, signsandship.com, or call Chris and Pam today, 440-323-6060, the home office in Elyria, Ohio. Signs and Ship, quality printing at affordable prices.
It's the Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making real decisions, creating real victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Yeah.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious.
Football, baseball, hoops, you name it, they have it. Plus, they have awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnificent belt ever created, and it's mine.
With America's Fantasy Sports Superstore, FantasyJocks.com.
What's your fantasy?
No football? No problem at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted. From their awesome Wing Mondays to every single Cavaliers and Buckeye Hoops games in full HD.
Kyrie split to D, goes inside, teardrops it home right down Euclid.
That's way up in there for two.
The excitement never stops. Every day of the week brings a different set of food and amazing drink specials.
And now,
fans, Harry Buffalo North Olmsted is the home for every UFC pay-per-view live on the big screens.
Let's get it all!
And let's not forget their mouth-watering trademark, the Bison Burger.
They sure are good.
Nobody does bison like Harry Buffalo. The perfect combination of healthy and delicious.
Hey there, eat up, y'all. You's as good church-going folk. Y'all deserve a little treat.
What are you waiting for? Get to Harry Buffalo, just outside Great Northern Mall today. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd.
Hi, this is Dean Chenoweth, head coach of Cleveland's Lake Erie Monsters, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Everyone's watching to see what.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix, final segment of the day here as we wrap things up. J-Rocc back with you here, and oh man, I'll tell you what a weekend coming up, man. There's only one round into the NFL draft. There's still the whole rest of this thing to go. I see the phones ringing. I'm really, I was going to catch it there, but I missed it. I was going to take another call. Tied up at the end of the show, you guys, so apologize for that. We'll get back to the phones on Monday, and we'll pick them back up, you guys, but definitely on the way out the door here today. A whole lot to get into in this final segment. We're looking ahead this weekend. Man, well, look at all the stuff going on. You got the NFL draft. You got all the Major League Baseball going on. NBA playoffs rolling on. You got the Kentucky Derby happening this weekend. You've got, of course, the big fight, Mayweather and PacMan. Pacquiao and Mayweather this weekend, and so much more. There's a ton of things. Gladiators in action. Gladiators down in Florida taking on Orlando. That game tomorrow, 7 p.m. here at the Amway Center for you guys that are into the Gladiators here this weekend. And they're doing their thing. As we said, NBA playoffs rolling on. Last night, going back, all right, I'm not going to lie. As much as I wanted the Spurs to finish that thing off because I want the Spurs to advance into the second round of the playoffs, I wanted a Game 7 because that Clippers-Spurs series has been so doggone good all series long that it deserves to go 7 games. The Spurs had it. They had that lead at moments in that game. They kept missing the chance to really lock up control of that thing. And at the end, kind of funny too how ironic it is, the bit by the same offensive interference call that got Jordan the day before. But here it comes now, going back to LA. The Spurs missed a chance to close that thing out at home, and now it's going to go back to LA, and it's a Game 7 coming up. That is going to be that's going to be one for the ages, you guys. There'll be no Game 7 in Chicago. Chicago took care of what they had to do last night. They said, we're done with this right here. Atlanta's trying to do the same thing as the home teams have won every game so far in that series. Brooklyn trying to stay alive and get that thing to a Game 7. They'll have that over the weekend. And then Sunday, you've got Game 7. Or excuse me, tomorrow. Not Sunday. That's tomorrow. Game 7. And I was joking about this. I said, boy, you got the fight coming up a little later. One group of those players is going to go watch the fight. The other group is not going to be in the mood to watch anything because the Clippers and the Spurs, Game 7, 8 p.m., somebody is going home and somebody is going on to the second round of the Western Conference playoffs. That's going to be excellent. And then, of course, all the second round action starts next week. So on Monday, when we get, Monday is going to be such a loaded show. We got the whole NFL draft to talk about, all of that. Dan Wismar is going to be here. We'll talk about where all the Buckeyes went in the draft, what the Browns did in the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth round, etc. We'll talk about all of the surprises of the draft. We've got that. Indians and Blue Jays are doing their thing all weekend long, and as much as Mike Brandenberry and I sit here frustrated with the Indians as we have these conversations, another day, another game, another opportunity to turn it around and get it going. And here, hopefully by the time we come back on Monday, it's been a good weekend for the Indians. They've got a lefty tonight. That's always the Achilles heel. They're 1-9, I think, this season so far, started by them. Mark Burley takes the mound. Good start for him this season. 3-1 for the Jays. Carlos Carrasco, 2-2, 4.6 ERA, takes the mound tonight for the Tribe. Corey Kluber, Cy Young Award winner, 0-3, looking to get that first win of the season. Takes on Aaron Sanchez tomorrow, 4:10 midday, first pitch. Sunday, 1:10 matinee is showing. Trevor Bauer, 2-0, 1.8 ERA. He's had another great start last time that, of course, was blown up by the bullpen. Drew Hutchinson, 2-0 start to the season. He will oppose him for the Blue Jays. Let's see if the Indians can take just 2 out of 3 here this weekend and split this series, and we can come back and talk about that on Monday as well. Come Monday, we'll be previewing the beginning. That'll be our real preview edition here as we dive into the Cavaliers and the Bulls going on. We'll talk about that here and so much more, including Mayweather and Pac-Man, baby, as Pacquiao and Mayweather finally happens here this weekend. We talked about the crazy ticket prices. We talked about all of that stuff. The free fights, the fights being aired for free all over the place in some countries. For Pacquiao, the Philippines, they're literally being warned to turn off their refrigerators and all of that stuff because the power, it's expected to cause blackouts of so many millions of people watching this game or this fight at the same time. People are being warned to turn off your fridges, turn off all your extra appliances because you're going to lose electricity during the fight. But millions and millions and millions of people around the world are going to be watching this fight. I saw in Mexico, millions of people getting the fight for free. Of course, in America, they're not getting it for free. They're paying $100 to get that fight. And, man, can't wait to watch it and can't wait to talk to you guys about it. Who do you think's going to win? Mayweather? Pac-Man? Who's got it? I think Pacquiao wins this one and becomes the 1 in 47-1. Or does Floyd Mayweather become one step away from victory? We'll find out. We've got so much to talk about when we come back on Monday. Guys, enjoy this weekend. What are the Browns going to do here? I'm telling you, there's a couple of good players available. Let's see who they snag here at 43. Jalen Strong, perhaps. Devin Smith, Max Williams. There's a lot of players out there defensively. We mentioned a couple of good edge rushers. They've got 2 chances to get players tonight. The rest of the weekend, Dan Wismar's here on Monday doing the thing, and we'll talk about that, guys, and so much more when we come back live, same bad time, same bad channel, noon, here Monday on the Sports Fix across the Sports Fix Radio Network. We love you, Cleveland and beyond, and we'll see you Monday, baby, right here on The Fix.
Okay, now here we go. Welcome to the Cleveland show, but this ain't no cartoon. Reality is all we know. You're tuning in to Bravo. Yeah, you hear me everywhere, but it's only one of me. Let me make that very clear. Yeah, I'm from that terminal. You can see the lake from here. Faith in my teams, we keep getting closer every year. But we got the king, though, so hopefully we overcome. Yes, I have a dream, and I know I ain't the only one. Armadale tried to steal my heart, but we brought it back. Thanks to Cleveland Clinic, now they call them kids to cardiac. Rock cars, Science Center, Tower City, all of that. Warehouse District, Euclid Corridor, and all the flat. You know that I'm a Tribes fan, and I love Slimans. Crockett Park's the perfect place for me to spend some time in. Baby, this is Cleveland. It is so much more to us. You can even go to Severance Hall to see an orchestra. Hey.